welcome to Connected with Krissy. Today I have one of my favorite people on the planet here with me.
Hi there.
Holly Moulton, who's recently married, so she's now Holly Barada, and she is a psychic medium. She is my personal psychic medium that I've used many times over the last 7 years or so. I was so lucky to have run across her. Was it in the metaphysical shop? Was the first time, I think.
It was.
Yeah, because we've done like house readings and stuff with you too.
Yep.
But anyways, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm so happy. So, what we do on this show, Holly, is we start from the beginning. Everybody's going to want to know, how does someone become a psychic medium, and what are the things that lead up to that?
Well, for me, I had pretty much I was born with it.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's born with
Mm-hmm.
it. I think a lot of people just kind of come into more of an awareness.
Right.
But for me, ever since I can remember, I've always had a gift.
Getting messages.
Exactly. You know, communicating with loved ones that had crossed over.
Right.
There were people I used to talk to my mother about that she was like, how do you know that? I'm like, because they're here.
Wow. Now, can you physically see them, or is it like an impression?
I can actually see them. Sometimes like the silhouette of them, actually.
Wow.
Other times it's like I can see them in my mind's eye with my third eye. A lot of times they'll send me symbols and signs, feelings, all kinds of stuff, basically.
So I have a funny story about Holly. It's the first time she weirded me out so bad. And this is not my first reading with her, but this was the first time she literally like had me going, no, not possible. I don't, So it was 2016, and I had gone in for a reading, and she grabbed my hand as I was like getting up to walk away, and she said to me, oh, and you're gonna have a baby, and I went, and I'm not even kidding you. And I was not trying. This was not something that I was like trying to do. 3 weeks later, I was pregnant. It happened the exact way that she said it was going to happen, that we were going to be on a trip. I wasn't going to be paying very close attention, which I was not paying very close attention. And it was going to be like, oopsie, but it was going to be a great miracle. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Ever since then, I'm like, Holly's where it's at. So
yeah, I've had a few people come to me, and I had one woman that actually had just conceived. It hadn't even been 48 hours. And she was like, that's impossible. And I said, well, in 6 weeks, I want you to take a pregnancy test.
Absolutely.
And I'm surprised she didn't call me. But she ended up coming back to the shop about a year and a half later with this little beautiful blonde hair, blue-eyed, gorgeous baby.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, wait a minute. I said, is that the baby that I saw?
It's like not possible?
And she's like, yeah. She goes, and I'm here for another reading.
So actually this just got chills as I'm thinking about even asking you this question. I have a few people close to me that have been told by, allopathic medicine that they were going to need help, or it wasn't going to be possible. As someone who sees into the spiritual realms, what are your thoughts on that?
As far as them conceiving a child, I would say yes to that. I definitely think that they will be able to conceive a child.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's going to take a little bit more time.
And maybe a little bit more effort.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like one party's kind of really on board, but the other one isn't totally.
Okay.
And I feel like they both need to be of the same consciousness in order for this to happen. Because they need to tap into the universal source.
Yeah.
But I definitely see it happening.
Okay, I did too. That's why I was like, I don't like when doctors use those types of words. They're so powerful. To tell somebody that it's like not possible without whatever.
Exactly.
Like, those are very powerful words, and I don't, because technically I really shouldn't have conceived, not that there was anything wrong with me, but I was much older. I wasn't trying. Then my sister, who had a very hard time with her 2 boys, hormone issues, was on medication, the whole thing, was happy with the 2 boys, and guess what happened recently?
Baby girl.
That's what I said! That's what I said! Yeah. Oh my God, I literally was was like, this one's gonna be a girl.
Yep.
And she was, oh my God, I have chills. Like, yeah, that's exactly. I was like, I saw it and I went, yeah, she was like, it was,
She's been waiting for that child.
Yeah, yes. Yes.
I almost feel like she was getting ready
right.
to give up. And she was just like, you know what? If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be.
And they weren't even thinking about it.
Exactly.
And
That's
then
usually
there it
how it
was.
happens. That's usually how it happens. So.
Yeah. So tell us about like your childhood. Was it a strange childhood? Like
It was unique.
Yeah.
I'll definitely say that. At first, I didn't really know what was happening.
Okay.
My mother always knew I was different. She always tried to sneak up on me. She never could. Okay. I would talk to these people that would come into my room during the day, and I was just playing with them, talking to them. You know, most people would think, okay, she's got an imaginary child friend.
Right.
Well, that wasn't the case.
Right.
They would wake me up all hours of the night. And
Really?
it scared me when I was young because I didn't know what was going on. I actually thought, why are these people in my room and why do they keep waking me up?
Right.
Well, they saw my light, you know, and they wanted to get in touch with me
Right.
so I could communicate with their loved ones.
Right.
Well, at the age of 5, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Well, I didn't really have any formal teaching, so for several years, I would wake up and I was scared to death, and I'd run into my mother's room every single night. And I would be on the floor right next to her bed, either at the foot of the bed or on the side of the bed.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know what is going on with her. And I didn't want to sleep in my room. I would sleep in any other room in the house but mine.
Right.
Because they associated my room with
the
my
ghosties.
energy.
With the ghosties.
Well, then, you know, about 9 years old, my grandfather came to me. And he was telling me, he said, it's okay. He said, you have an ability that not everybody else has.
Right.
And I was like, well, what is that? So, you know, he started talking to me about it. Well, then as time went on, you know, different people would come in that I didn't know, but they would explain to me why they were there.
Oh, wow.
And they were actually teaching me from the other side how to do what I do.
Wow.
I never had any formal training. It was more angelic help.
I know that can be taught,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of feel the same as you. There's like a lot of inherent,
Exactly.
just it lives within you.
And in a lot of families, it's in the family. It's in their lineage. You know, my
Right.
grandmother had it, my mother had it, I had it, both my sons have it, but not everybody uses it.
That's what I was going to say. Were you the first one to come into
Oh,
it
yeah.
and come into it powerfully?
Yes.
Now, was anybody chastised for it in the history?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My mother was afraid because I don't think she understood it, but she knew that I was gifted. And, you know, it's ironic because it's like she'll come and ask you something, but then, like, how do you know that? You know what I mean?
Right.
My
and a little
brothers-
hush-hush around her friends, I'm sure.
They all knew I was
Yeah.
different because it's like I never held anything back, even as a child. I never did.
Good.
Whatever
Wow.
was meant to come out, came out.
Yeah, wow.
They all thought I was strange, odd, and whatever, but I didn't care.
That's wonderful.
But my brothers, they didn't understand it, you know, and it's like they were, you know, very much into the other aspect of spirituality. Like they believe in God. Not that I don't, I do.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, they were very regimented about it. You know, they couldn't see beyond a certain point where I could. And to me, it's all one. It's all
Agreed.
together. So even to this day, they still, I think they're afraid of me. They're afraid of what I can see.
Yeah. It's typical. I told someone this yesterday. I said it's typically fear when people react
Oh,
in
yeah.
that way.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
It's typically
I've blown their
because-
mind a couple of times,
Yes.
and they're just kind of like, what? You
yeah.
know?
Like
I don't
how?
know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an inherent thing. But I think so many of us can tap into it.
Agreed.
And it gets stronger. I feel personally from you that just in the last 7 years we've been, you know, working together, that I feel you stronger every single time
Oh, yeah.
we meet. And I'm like, wow, that energy coming off of Holly was like, whoa.
There's always growth. Always,
Yeah.
always. Especially when you stay with it. You know, and if you do it for the right reasons, you know, I believe in doing it to help people.
Agreed.
So, you know, whatever information I can bring to people, whether it's their loved ones that may have just passed,
Right.
or information to help them medically, anything. I mean, I've helped find missing people.
Oh, wow.
I've actually helped, you know, channel in energies from families to kind of bring them back together.
Wow.
You know, it's like a mother and a son, they'd been apart for years, and she was like, I don't know what to do. And I kind of explained to her a few different things, and I said, don't push him. And I said, he's going to come to you, but you have to allow that.
Right.
And she did. And, you know, they've got a really good rapport now.
Wow. So how did this sort of, I know it's always been there, and Holly mentioned to me earlier that she sort of started, it was like helping friends and family. And did anything like weird happen to you in childhood, like where your friends were like, whoa sister, like whoa sister, what happened there? Like, were you able to know anything, have any strange things happen with
there was a lot of things that happened around me. I could definitely sense when somebody was not a good person. I would totally go the other direction.
Right.
I remember right before I got into an accident, my grandmother said to me, she goes, "You're going to get in an accident." And I was like, I tried to avoid it. She said, "You can't avoid this one." And I thought, oh God. So of course I asked her, I said, "Am I going to die?" And she said no. But she didn't say anything after that. Well, I knew it was coming because I could feel it. My gut was just, you know how you get that gut feeling like something's really wrong?
Yeah.
And I kept saying, something's going to happen. I don't know what it is, but I feel like something's going to happen. And I was 16 at the time.
Okay.
And sure enough, we got into an accident we were driving in a Corvette, and, you know, driving crazy.
You driving?
No.
Okay.
This fellow was driving, I was in the middle, and one of my best friends was on the right.
Wow.
And we were going pretty fast. And I remember thinking, oh my God,
shit.
This is it.
Oh.
And then I came to, and people were everywhere.
Did anybody pass away in that?
No.
Okay, thank goodness.
No, I actually felt my grandmother's hand on me.
Wow.
Because I had no seatbelt on.
Ooh.
And I should have been dead a couple of times. So, she made sure that I was okay. I had a broken collarbone, but...
What is your astrological sign?
Sagittarius.
Oh, okay.
So I've been very lucky in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I'm like, woo, my Capricorn butt would never do that. I'm like, listen, we get in the car, I'm like, everyone buckle up. Is everyone safe?
Oh, I was a risk taker.
We're not eating anything we could choke on, right? That sounds like my husband. Yep. I'm like, oh, it makes me nervous just to think about it.
That's funny.
So what happened after that? Did that activate anything additional?
It really did. It kind of really made me, realize that, okay, I really do need to look into this further. So I started reading more about it and trying to learn as much as I could. And I really started practicing.
What did you read at that time?
All kinds of angel books, everything to do metaphysically.
Okay.
Like how I was feeling, why I was feeling this way. I would watch. I always gravitated to the shows, of other psychics and stuff like that. And I always found that when I watched those shows, it would open me up.
Do you like the Michael Landon show?
I haven't seen that.
Do you know what was it called?
Little House on the Prairie.
No. The other one where he was like an angel guy.
Oh, I do know which one you're talking about. I don't remember.
But that wasn't one of the ones you watched.
No.
And you were like, oh, yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
like that. Mm-hmm.
Things because I really liked that in the 80s. I was like, I just love this show. I can't remember though. I'm going to remember as soon as
it'll
get
come
off of this.
as soon as we're done.
So then as you started reading the books and opening yourself up, did everything then start to snowball?
Everything started to fall into place at that point. I noticed that all the right people started coming into my life. People, friends would just come to me. Okay, well, I have to do this, and I don't know what to do about this. Right. What do you think?
Right.
I
am that friend. Everybody comes to me and says, what do you think about this? And I'm like, what?
That's a good thing.
Why? Like, what do you... But did it make you feel weird at first? Because sometimes I feel weird, like, why are they asking me this? I'd be like, they should know their own stuff, but that's my Capricorn self.
They believe in you, and they see that quality in you. And so, they trust you. They know that you have that gift, so they know you're going to tell them the truth.
That I will do.
Yeah.
That I will do, sometimes to my detriment.
Well, sometimes it can be that way,
So, once you got out of high school, what did you pursue?
I actually went into, I did several different jobs, and then it was dead end. And something kept pushing me to get me into the medical field. And I thought, okay, well, I kept trying to become a nurse. And I was blocked 3-4 times. I'm like, okay, I'm not meant to be a nurse.
Right.
Nurse. So I became a surgical tech.
Okay.
And I worked in the OR. Okay. And I worked in the medical field for 17 years, but it gave me a vast knowledge of
anatomy,
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, when I look back on my life, all the different things that I had done, experiences I've been through, led me to the very moment of where I am right now.
Wow.
And it also helps me to be able to understand more communication from my guides, to be able to pass that on to others that come to me for readings.
Right. So in the OR for 17 years,
Mm-hmm.
you were still doing readings and
Yes.
stuff like on the side. It was like a side hustle.
Oh yeah, all the time. And it really became really apparent to me that I was leaving the medical field about 2 years before I actually left.
Oh, it took that's like sort of a long time for those of you
Yeah.
watching, thinking you're on a time limit for something.
Oh no,
sometimes it's not as fast.
that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. And you know, I started feeling just disinterested
Yeah.
in what I was doing, and I loved what I did for years. But I thought, you know, I was more communicating with patients that were under than
That
I
was what I was getting ready to ask
Yeah.
you. Were you getting messages from them?
Absolutely.
And did anything weird happen, like in the OR?
Yeah. We actually had a patient one time years ago that we were in the OR, and I had said to the doctor, I said, I don't have a good feeling about him. I don't think you should take him back.
Ooh.
Well, he had stated beforehand that he did not want to, that he didn't want to be here anymore. He wanted to be with his sister that was on the other side. Well,
so he took his opportunity.
He chose that moment
Yeah.
to leave.
Yeah.
And it was no one's fault. There was
Yeah.
there was no issue there. He just chose to leave at that time. And I remember seeing him standing there next to his sister in spirit, and I was like, "You need to get back in there."
Well, you're like, oh,
And he's
shit.
like, "I'm not going
Like,
to." And his wife was out in the other room, but she knew this ahead of time.
She did.
She knew he had been saying this for weeks, and you know, God bless him, you know, but he was ready. He was ready to
Yes, great. Do you think that that's a huge part of the human experience, is that we do sort of get a choice in that?
I do agree with that. I do think we do. Ultimately, I think that we're kind of predestined to how we go.
Agreed.
And we come here to kind of learn our life lessons. But I think we're allowed to choose, and we also, it's based on how we live our lives too. And the amount of, how would I put it, like, if you're a really good person, that's going to come back to you.
Right.
You know, so whatever you're putting out there, that's what you're going to get back.
Right.
So if you're not a good
Agreed.
person, be prepared, because you're going to get it. It's
Yes.
going to come back around
Well,
one way or another.
Like, just in, like, when I talk to my friends, I'm like, yo, that vibration. I'm like,
Exactly.
you got to work on that vibration, because we're all energy, and what you're reverberating out is going to bounce back on the universe and come back at you. So if you're reverberating,
Exactly.
that, like,
well, think about it.
low-
Energy never dies. It's merely transformed. So we're all energetically connected in one way or
Right.
another.
right?
We might not all want to be connected at some point, you know what I mean? But technically we are.
Right.
And, you know, we all come from the same source, from the universe. So it's like we have to tap into that source.
So this is another weird thing I want to ask you. When you're doing readings for people, you know for sure it's coming from the guides. Like, how do you decipher whether it's coming from their brain and you're reading their brain, or whether it's coming, do you know what I mean?
I do.
Because
I
as
do.
a person who also does readings and stuff, but I don't consider myself a medium, but I did have a medium thing happen one time, and I thought I was going to run. Like, and I was like, am I reading her mind? And I was like, how did I know that?
Every psychic goes through that. They
Like-
always question themselves, like, okay, am I supposed to be doing this? Or, you know, and it's usually those are the days that I get the validation.
Yeah, it
And-
was like insane, and I was like, I'm not a medium. I am an angel reader. Like, I was like, you know, you have those moments. I don't do this.
But-
I don't. But they're like, yes, you do, sister. And I'm like, no, I don't do this. Like, I don't think I read again for a year after that.
I think that though,
It
yeah, but
scared me so much.
that makes sense. But I almost feel like they were giving you a taste of it, you know, because I do think they want you to do that.
Yeah.
And I think they were trying to show you that how capable you are,
Yeah.
and to get past that fear to kind of do it anyway.
Yeah, because it was a very like powerful, and I'm sure that you've had things like this happen to you before too. I've only had it happen once, so that's why I'm like, I did not read after for a whole year afterwards. It scared me so bad. But it was a woman's son who she had been told he committed suicide, and he was standing next to me going, "No, I didn't," and I was like, "What?" And she didn't tell me she had a son. We were in the garden, and the artist, and he's like, "You're sitting with my mom. Tell her I'm here." And I was like, "What is it? Oh my God!" Like,
some of them are very
bothered
relentless.
me for 45 minutes before I said something.
He knew that she needed that message.
We were getting off the phone, and I look at my arms, and I said, "I just have to ask you this one question before we get off the phone." I said, "Do you or did you have a son?" And she burst into tears, and she said, I did. And she goes, "And I knew he was going to come to you." And I said, "He's telling me, I don't know what this means." I said, "He's telling me that he didn't mean to. He did a stupid boy thing." The Army told her he committed suicide. Maybe drugs and pills, like about, like maybe a combo, and he didn't wake up. That was what. But he said, "I did a stupid boy thing." My friend who knew her, I did not know her. She died a few years later, and she said she was able to die peacefully because she did not live with that guilt.
Exactly.
So that's the type of power. Like, I've only done it once because then I got scared. But like that's the type of power, because you're someone fully in this. And for anyone watching this who's had, like me, somebody who's had something like that happen. Like there are a lot of people that watch this show because we're highly spiritual.
Absolutely.
That have this happen. So what do you do? Like the first time you're like, what do you do? Like you are so powerful in your. I was not.
I actually enjoyed being in that energy. I still do to this day. I mean, it's almost like, I guess, like a drug to me. I'd prefer to be in that realm versus this one sometimes. I'm like half in, half out at any given time. I actually need to kind of come back down sometimes because I prefer to float around with them. You know what I mean? Because it's so peaceful there. And, it's like the messages that come through are just, I know it's the truth. You know what I mean? So it's like there is no in between there.
Did you have anybody like fight you on it growing up that would make you think maybe you were? Because I'm feeling like some people watching this are going to be like, well, my mom told me I was stupid, or my dad told me I was stupid, or there was no such thing as ghosts, or like whatever. Yeah. What do you say to that person who's scared?
They need to try to look past that. They were given a gift, and fear is the biggest thing that prevents people from moving forward in their lives, no matter what it is that they're doing. And sometimes I want to say, face that fear and do it anyway. There's a reason why your guides are coming to you and trying to get you to do this and move forward. So, that's why I feel like they need to kind of just take those steps. And most people that say stuff like that, they're usually afraid and can't handle it. And that's okay. Not everybody can embrace what you do or how you feel about things. Everybody's entitled to their own way of thinking.
Yeah, and do you think that there's a lot more people now sort of waking up?
I feel that it's in the masses now. I think a lot of people are finally starting to come to a new higher consciousness, and it's good because people aren't walking around with blinders on anymore. I think they're actually starting to see the actual world around them. People would just get up, go to work before, and they wouldn't stop and look at the beautiful things that are around them.
100%.
Right. And it's like the signs are everywhere. All you have to do is pay attention.
My little boy, when we go outside, he goes, "Hey, tree."
Oh, that's so sweet.
Because like we teach him like everything is beautiful and like just appreciate everything at every moment. And
that's good though. What a beautiful soul.
He goes, "Hey, tree," every night, and I go, "Do you see the moon? There's the moon. Isn't she beautiful?"
Yeah.
And like he can't say moon yet, but he says, "Hey, tree."
Oh, that is so precious.
Okay, so going back to the OR, you were there for 17 years. What happened after that? How did you make the full transition?
I actually, and this is so funny. I was, when you're in a situation, like you're at a job and you just don't even want to get out of the car anymore.
Oh, yes, I know exactly.
I was at that point, and I'm like, I was already doing readings at that point, and I'm like, how am I going to get from this to that? And they're like, don't worry about it. We're going to handle it. We're going to take you out of this.
Yes.
Well, I didn't see the whole aspect of how they were going to take me out of it.
Oh, how did it happen?
Well, I was working a lot of hours, and I was getting really run down. So I ended up becoming very sick myself. And I thought, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Like autoimmune type stuff?
Yeah. And they're like, well, we're taking you out of here. You're never going to do this again. And I was like, what do you mean you're taking me out of this? Like, what am I going to do? They're like, relax. We've got you. Everything's fine.
When she says they, she means for spirit guides.
Exactly.
And light team and helpers.
Exactly. So, 2 years later, I had, gotten much better. And that's
with your health?
With my health.
Okay.
And that's when they said, okay, now it's time for you to start moving forward. And so I started
How did you get better with your health? Because there's a lot of people also, we talk about autoimmune a lot, and I think that's a psychic, I am a huge believer that a large part of that is a psychic disease.
I really believe that, honestly and truly, because I've only
100%.
experienced it myself. And I didn't learn how to protect myself until probably about 20 years ago.
Can you teach us? Can you give us like a little tip?
It's real simple.
Okay.
It's, basically, it's like most people just walk around, all their chakras are wide open.
Okay.
And, they're just allowing whatever energy to be around them. Mm-hmm. Well, when I leave the house every day, I put on what I like to call my armor. Okay. And I visualize that armor, especially when I'm reading for people. Because I don't want to take on their energy, especially if they're sick. I've had people come in that have had cancer, and I feel horrible. Yeah, or I've had somebody that's come in, they're nauseous, or they're just, anything. They just don't feel good. Pain. Mm-hmm. I can feel their pain. And it's like, at the end of the day, you still have all that, like, cosmic energy all over you. And it makes you tired. It takes everything from you. And you have to kind of shed it and get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I keep stones in my pockets to keep for protection.
What is this, black obsidian?
This is black obsidian.
Yes, my favorite.
I
always
protection,
tell people, I'm like,
and it's an owl.
Yes,
I resonate with owls.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anytime you leave your house, you protect yourself. Do you have a limit on like what you can handle per week?
As far as readings? And
yeah.
Stuff like that? No,
like, do you have like a limit?
No, not so much. I mean, I've been at the shop that I've been working at for 7 years. Mm-hmm. Just the other day on Saturday, I think I did like 14 people, something like that. Mm-hmm. And, I'll take a little break in between. But it's like I go in there with all this energy. And shielded to go in there. And it's like once I start, it's like this.
And you just ask your guides and your angels just to place a protective psychic shield around you.
And I'll clear my energy in between each one. I'll take a moment. It doesn't take long. I always keep clearing spray around me too. So after each person, I kind of spray the room.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So that energy kind of leaves with them.
Right. And how do you keep the chakras from being wide open? Because I feel like that's actually a huge problem that I have as an empath.
I open mine up the second I get there. I do it as I'm actually driving in the car, so that when I get there, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
But I'm protected because I have my protection around me.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I basically out loud, I literally will say, I'll close them down one at a time. Like, close this one down, this one, this one, all the way through, okay? And then I work a lot with the 4 archangels, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel. And Gabriel and Uriel are the ones that I communicate with as far as getting most of the lion's share of my information that I pass on to other people.
Wow.
But Raphael protects me as far as, healing my energy after each reading I do. And especially on the way home. Like when I'm done, I can feel when I'm done. Sometimes I'll have another one coming at night, like after hours. I'll kind of clear my energy and get ready for that. Right. And then when I'm done, I shut everything down.
Do you have to take a shower to do that? You're just
Some people can. For me, I don't have to. I basically just close them down, and it's almost like I'm shutting it off.
Wow.
And it totally changes. It's interesting because my mental clarity changes at that point.
Do you think do you think the reason why you were sick is you weren't utilizing your gifts?
Yes.
That's what I think too.
That's exactly.
I'm like, whoa, okay. Yep. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Because it was like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I just became sicker and sicker, and they're like, you're not where you're supposed to be.
Whoa.
Like, you're done with that aspect of your life. Wow. So that now you've learned everything you needed from that, so now you can go on to do what we need you to do as a light worker. And
as a medium, I know you do a lot of medical stuff within your mediumship because you've told me stuff and my husband stuff and all that. Was that something that evolved sort of over time, or was that like an immediate thing? Have you always been able to do that too?
I've always been able to do it, but I think after being in the medical field, it gave me a lot more clarity as to like what it could be. Like I would just go to a certain part of somebody's body, like there's something wrong in this area.
Right, but I don't know that that's the kidneys or whatever it may be.
Right. Being in the medical field allowed me to kind of really, bring that out more so.
Yeah, cool. What are your some of your favorite stories of probably the baby stuff is always awesome.
Oh, that's
like
always
anytime.
wonderful.
But what are like some of your favorite like readings that you've had that you were like you even like surprised yourself? Like, whoa, did that really just happen? Like, wow.
Well, let's see. There was one time I was reading for this woman, and she had this guide around her, and I called him the Green Man. I didn't know why. He just had leaves all over him, and I couldn't understand what the Green Man was. And, she lived in the city, but she also had a place outside the city. Well, that was her favorite place. And I said to her, I said, what is with the Green Man? And she's like, oh my God. Her husband had a best friend, okay, that he used to work in the swamps. And they would come home together covered in this green
muck.
And
nasty.
She said it was awful. And she said, how could you see that? Because I described like all the little details of everything that I was seeing.
Yeah.
And I even told her, I said, it really stunk too, And
yeah,
she's like,
stinks.
oh yeah,
Ugh.
but it was rancid smell. So I don't know what technically they were doing. They didn't really show me that, but she was just blown away by the fact that somebody could see all that. And he was also somebody that was in the military too.
Oh.
But that didn't have anything to do with the swamp thing. The swamp was basically just where they lived. They had a swamp like right down the street from where they lived.
Oh, that's so funny. So they were showing you like the swamp thing.
They were
like,
showing, yeah,
but
that's what they called him, was the swamp thing.
Wow.
And she was like, nobody knew that, just him and his buddy and her.
Yeah.
And she was like, there's no way you could have known that.
Wow. No.
And then there was another time I go to the chiropractor.
Okay.
She helps me a lot. Well, I was in there, and this was 18 years ago, quite a while ago.
Wow.
And she was working on me, and I looked up at her, and I said, oh my God, you're pregnant. She's like, did I tell you that? I said, no.
Yeah.
And I said, she goes, she just found out. She literally had just found out, like 2 days prior. And I said, do you want to know what it is? She's like, you know what it is? And she goes, wait a minute. She goes, I didn't tell you that. And I said, I know you didn't. I can see the baby inside of you. And I said, you're about 3 months pregnant. She goes, about 3.5. And I just remember the look on her face. She totally stopped working on me. And I said, wait a minute, get back to the back now.
Yeah.
And we laughed about it, but we still talk about it to this day.
Wow. Does that happen to you like in the grocery store and like
All
in
over the
random
place.
places?
Yes.
Like, so you can't really shut it off.
It's, well, yes and no. It's like sometimes I won't engage with it, but sometimes there's messages that their loved ones are coming through that. I'll give you an example. I was in Perkins one day. I was having lunch with a friend, and this woman was sitting alone reading a book. We were sitting here, and she was like right over here. And this woman in spirit came to me, and she was just like, I'm like, no, not now. No, I finally got a moment's peace. I said, not now. She's like, I'm not leaving until you go talk to my sister and you tell her that I'm okay.
No.
I'm like, do you promise that you will wait till I'm done eating? I said, and then I'll go talk to her.
Yeah.
And I would never just walk up to somebody and just blurt it out.
Right.
I always ask beforehand because, you don't
Ask
want to
your
invade.
guides.
Right. No, I ask them.
You ask them
I'm like,
physically.
I would tell them what I did, and I have a message for you. Do you want it? Because you never want to invade somebody's space like that.
This is good information to have.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went up to her and I told her, I asked her and she said, sure. And I said, I know you don't know me. So I told her who I was and what I did and everything. And she's like, oh. And I said, your sister has been driving me crazy over here. She wants me to tell you, I just told her all this stuff. And she was like, she started to break down and cry. And I felt so bad because I made her cry. And I said, I'm sorry to make you cry. And she said, no. She goes, they're happy tears. She goes, because you just confirmed, I just asked her earlier today, did you make it to heaven? And she said, you were my confirmation that she made it to the other side. And she said, I can't thank you enough. And I said, it was my pleasure.
Yeah.
And you know, of course, the woman that was on the other side, she came to me and thanked me. And I said, you're welcome. And on her merry way, she went.
It.
Yeah.
Now, do you have ones that come in a lot, or they'll kind of keep coming in until you run into whoever you're supposed to run into?
Not too often.
Okay.
Unless
so it's more like
something-
when you're there in the energy.
Right. It does happen sometimes, but it's usually with people I know. Not so much with total strangers. Like I had a friend, really close friend, and I felt that there were some things that were going to happen that were not good, and I was really concerned about it. But she wasn't open to the message. And they're like, you have to find a way. And I said, and how do you propose I do that?
Right.
And so they're like, trust me, the time will come, but you have to give her the message when we tell you to.
When it's appropriate. They're going to give you an appropriate time.
Exactly. And they gave me the window, and I just remember kind of getting this little shove. Like, seriously?
Yeah.
You know, so they're like, now, you need to tell her right now. Well, she was contemplating suicide.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't 100% sure that she was going to commit suicide. I just felt a lot of depression with her and negativity. And I said, do not do it. I said, whatever you do, don't do it. Get help. Call somebody. I'm here for you, whatever you need to do. Well, she did end up getting help. And, you know, she said, how did you know? And she just was closed off to the whole world. And I said, my guides told me. I said, but they wouldn't let me come talk to you until it was the right time. And I believe that might have actually been the day she was thinking about going home and taking her life.
Wow.
So that was a big one for me.
No, speaking on like depression and anxiety, I know for me personally, I have struggled with that over the years, because before I knew what was going on with my body and that I'm an intuitive and empath and all that, before you know all these things, you know, when I was younger, I deeply struggled with that. Have you?
I think that's
with
a
that?
sign of being intuitive.
You think that's another?
I've noticed
like the help
it. Yes,
stuff?
absolutely. Because I noticed there's times that, and a lot of people that are empaths can truly tell you what they're feeling from other people.
Absolutely.
Empaths are extremely strong when it comes to feeling other people's feelings. They literally will take on their energy, and whether it's anxiety, depression, anything. You know, I mean, I can tell you that when my son, who's a diabetic, I can tell you when his level's really low. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and I'll feel that anxiety.
Is he
for
type
him.
1?
He's type 1.
So autoimmune.
And I'll feel that, you know, I'll feel that energy with him. And then I can tell once he's taken something to raise his level, it's about 15 minutes later, oh, okay, it goes away. So, but it relates differently to each person, you know, whatever the circumstances are.
Right. I think, I'm thinking of like one person in particular who's very young with a lot of health stuff, and I think it's a debilitation due to too much. Too
much energy.
Too much, like energy overload, and she is also type 1 diabetic. And so she's dealt with that since she was little. But, and then also saying no to things that don't align with your soul.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people are afraid to hurt other people's feelings, and
or to leave the job. They're scared of the
they're afraid to make
security.
Right. They're afraid to make that move, and it's scary. But sometimes there's something. You know, usually there's something better on the other side, and it's being able to just take that leap of faith, knowing. And usually the second they do it, that knot that's been in their stomach kind of just goes away.
I dealt with that just 6 months ago. I wanted to leave that job. I'd sit in the parking lot every day and say, you know, these are good people, but this just isn't for me. I know that I knew like there's something else for me. And then I told you before we got started, I was telling Holly, like, I'm on my soul's path following, I'm doing all the things and just not being fearful of judgment. I was very fearful of judgment. People thinking I was some type of weirdo because I had deep spiritual. I love my spirituality and my deep. So I was just a model and a wrestler on the surface, but very scared to talk about this kind of stuff with people.
It takes a backbone, I will say. You know, it's like I made a conscious decision years ago, and I was like, okay, if I'm doing this, I mean, I'm doing it all the way. And that's when everything started opening.
So did you quit the OR, or did something happen? And
no,
then
I left. I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
And then how was it afterwards? Did everything just bloom for
I actually
you?
had
or
a
did
chance.
you take some healing?
I took some time to really heal, to kind of let my body heal, and then I went on from there. And they knew they told me, they were like, okay, you've had enough time, now you need to get ready.
Yes.
And that's when this very influential person came into my life and basically got me started.
Wow.
I want to say professionally.
Was that out of nowhere?
It was.
Just like,
it was.
Oh, okay, maybe I'll do a few readings a week, and then.
Well, I was reading for friends and friends of friends, and I started doing parties, and this woman happened to be at a party. And I could not take my energy away from her.
Oh.
I was like, okay, there's a reason that she and I are there.
Oh.
There was a reason she was there. I couldn't quite figure it out at that moment, but I almost feel like they wanted to surprise me. That may be why they didn't tell me the whole thing. Well, I went on to do many readings for her and friends of hers. She was a very influential person
in the community.
Wow. So she brought a lot of clients to me. And I remember when I went to go work for Enchanted Spirits of Dunedin, she came in there one day to see how I was doing. Wow. She wanted to make sure that I was doing well. And then
she actually recognized that influence as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
And so she came in there just to check the place out, see if it was worthy of me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really sweet, you
Yeah.
know. But I mean, God bless her, because she was a huge impact on me.
Wow.
She's impacted a lot of people's lives in different ways.
That's probably why she's so blessed. Why she is so influential, because she's probably just dropping blessings everywhere.
She is. Absolutely.
Wow.
But she was a big part of my crossing over.
So you didn't have any, I'll say, like when you leave a job that has a steady paycheck and then you go into something where you're an entrepreneur, you were actually more abundant afterwards?
I really was.
I
was fearful at first.
Yes,
and they're like, you have to trust us. Okay. And I finally just let go. And once I let go, I didn't have to worry from that moment on.
Wow.
And everything just came to me the way it was supposed to.
So what would you say to somebody who's watching this who is feeling like, I don't know, I think I can do that, but
I think they need to look into it more. I think you need to do some research for yourself and really do some soul searching to find out if this is really something that you're truly interested in, that you would want to go out and help people with.
Right, because it's really I mean, Holly has helped me through things that I can't even tell you guys about. She helped pin down a health problem with my husband where she was dead on. She told us we were going to have a baby, what it was going to be, the sex of the baby, as well as also that my best friend and I were going to work that show in California, which happened 3 years later. And when I got pregnant, because I was super excited about that, because that was what I saw in my life path was television and whatever. But then the baby came in, and I was like, "There's no way that's going to happen." And when Elijah was 1 year old, I got the call, and I went out to California for a week and shot that show with my friend. And so sometimes it's years later.
Sometimes
we don't have our timing.
That's the one thing that's hardest for any psychic to nail down, is the timing of things. If anybody says they're 100%, they're lying. The only thing you can be 100% about is how much you love your family.
Absolutely.
But I won't predict death, but I will tell people if I feel something.
A medical thing.
Right. You need to go to the doctor. You need to get this checked out right away. Don't wait. Okay? Or I will tell a loved one, I don't have a good feeling about this person. You really need to explore that more. Okay? For this, and this reason. All right? And usually it's really important. That kind of timing is different.
But just fun little things that might come along.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my readings usually are good for about a year. And then it's
that's about how often I come to see you. Once a year.
It depends.
And then otherwise I'm good, which I've told y'all this before. I've mentioned Holly and my other things, and I'll be I see my girl about once a year. Even though I know how to do it, it's really good to hear it from you.
It's always good to get that validation.
Yes,
absolutely.
100%, because then you get this other bolt of energy from someone living in their power, and then that enables you to more come into your power.
It's always nice. I find that the more grateful I am for my gift, the more abundance that comes my way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I think that I would tell anybody that's going to do this business. It's demanding, but it's worthwhile. And the reward from it, from helping people, is just unbelievable.
Now, do you get messages for yourself, or are you blocked off from yourself?
I do. I don't always want to listen to them, but yes, I do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but do you get like the psychic vision? Like, because I'd be feeling like you are like on point detail with me. You get the vision for yourself. Isn't that a little more rare? Don't a lot of psychics not get messages for themselves?
I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I can say, as far as me, it depends on what's going on. Like, I'll give you for instance. We bought a new dog. We got a new dog, a few months back. I knew she was coming. I started looking, like all of a sudden I thought, I know she's coming.
Yeah.
They told me 2 weeks. Okay. So, I'm looking. I'm not finding this dog anywhere. I'm looking for a rescue, okay? I have been looking for 13 years. I've been waiting for this Chihuahua for 13 years. Well, okay. I'm sitting on the couch, and they're like, today's the day. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
And so I'm like, so I start looking, SPCA, all those.
Yeah.
Nothing. Well, I was just sitting there kind of flipping through my phone, and I was on Facebook. Well, I must have hit something. I don't know what I hit. But it took me to this website, and here it was like boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden, here this little Chihuahua popped up. Her name was Holly. And she was the exact color, the exact dog that I wanted. She's cream and white. And I was like, no way. My husband wasn't even awake yet. And I was like, I already was dialing the phone, like, do not get rid of this dog. I knew she was mine.
Wow.
And so we took care of that, went down, put the deposit, and she was supposed to be on Wednesday. And I was going to Enchanted on Monday, and I saw a cloud that looked just like the dog. And I went, oh my gosh, they're going to call me today. Sure enough, they called us that day. So we flew down there Monday night after I got done to pick the dog up.
Wow, and now she's with you guys?
Yeah, she's 6.5 months now.
Is it a lovely,
she's
mix?
So precious. So precious.
Oh, I love soul dog stories.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have a soul cat, and I'm like, she just showed up, and I thought I was allergic to cats. And she just showed up, and then she wouldn't go anywhere else, and I tried to call all the, you know how you try to call all the places and find the owner. Nope, that's my cat.
That was meant to be.
That's my cat. So with all of everything going on in the world, the state of the world right now, what would be your advice for people watching right now?
I would say that I think people need to tap into the universal source, and they need to put more love out there energetically. Because, there's always good and bad, no matter where you go, in any society, no matter what. But I really want to say people need to keep their vibrations as high as possible so that we can raise the vibrations on this earth to a better level, to where people are more conscientious and kind to each other and more loving and understanding and stuff like that.
Do you think we're getting I've had several people come and say that they thought that this was a timeline choice. Do you think we're getting like a timeline choice on whether staying in like the chaos or rising up to like the coherence?
I want to say it's going to happen regardless. I feel that
you think everybody's going to get there, just some people are going to get there faster than the others?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay.
I just think that, well, the old story, you can either go with it or be dragged. And so I just feel like people can either go with the collective soul in a good way, or they can fight it, and then they're going to have to deal with their own trials and tribulations within their own world. So
absolutely. That's good advice. Well, is there anything else fun that you want to tell us before we sign off here? Well, I'm going to tell you guys where to find Holly, because she has been super important in my life over the years, and I've had amazing shifts from you over the years, and
I appreciate that.
I'm just thankful for you and thankful for you coming on, and hopefully millions of people will see this over the next few years.
They told me that I was going to be coming back, and they said this is one of two, and I said okay. I said I'm here.
Chills. Agreed.
So
thank you guys for watching. I'm going to link all of Holly's information below, where you can find her, where you can your website, Psychic Phone Call.
Right,
PsychicPhoneCall.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in the Florida area, you work in Dunedin.
Yeah, it's
once
Enchanted Spirits of Dunedin, and I work there twice a week, Mondays and
Oh,
Wednesdays.
twice.
from
I
12
didn't
to 6.
realize you were there twice a
Yep.
week. So twice a week, and you guys are doing in person right now.
In person.
Wonderful. And then I'll link Holly's website. And then you also do phone.
I do a lot of private readings. I read
Yeah.
all over the world.
Yeah, because I knew that you do a lot of phone too.
Yeah.
So you can get in touch with Holly a million different ways. I'll list them all below. She is a gift to just the universe
thank you
in
so
ways that I
much.
cannot tell you. So book a reading because this is who I use, and y'all know I got high taste. So if you guys are new to the show, please like, please subscribe, please share with your friends, and we will see you next time on Connected with Krissy. And thank you, Holly, so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.